Germany's center-left Social Democrats have narrowly claimed victory in the country's federal election. German election officials released results for the parliamentary elections, putting the Social Democrats ahead with over 25% of the vote. Chancellor Merkel's conservative bloc, that has been in power since 2005, is in second place. That is the party's worst showing in its history. The stage is now set for tough negotiations to determine who will replace the outgoing chancellor. Many say the country, and possibly all of Europe, could be on the verge of a political change. CBS News' Chris Livesay has more from Berlin.
After 16 years in office, Angela Merkel, a former research scientist and daughter of a Lutheran preacher, is finally saying Auf Wiedersehen as German chancellor. Lauded as a bulwark of Europe, helping save it from imploding during the 2009 debt crisis. Her secret? A stoic calm that didn't just influence German society, it defined it, says political scientist Frank Staus.
So there is a lot of common sense, if you want to, in the German public, and she maybe even due to her.
Her legacy spanned 4 presidencies, befriending some, clashing with former President Trump. As he retreated from international affairs, many looked to Angela Merkel as the new leader of the free world, says political analyst David Deissner.
I think the Trump years made clear that the Western values do not necessarily only have to be represented by the United States. I think this is why many people said that she was really carrying the torch of Western values and freedom.
While Trump wanted migrants out,
I will build a great, great wall.
Merkel opened Germany's doors to more than 1 million refugees, her shining moment, according to most Germans.
It was a good thing, but then the question is how you deal with it.
Indeed, there was a backlash. On Merkel's watch, a far-right party entered parliament for the first time since World War II. And anti-migrant movements took hold across Europe. In Hungary, they erected a fence. Once Time magazine's Person of the Year, she now leaves the reins of the most powerful country in Europe, as well as many of the tensions she sought to resolve.
Now, the center-left is narrowly ahead of Angela Merkel's center-right bloc, but that is hardly a rebuke. Their candidate, Olaf Scholz, is Angela Merkel's own finance minister, who not only exudes the same sense of calm, he even uses some of her same hand gestures. Tanya?
Chris Livesay, thank you. For more, I want to bring in Lila Balint. She is an assistant professor of German at the University of California, Berkeley. She specializes in 20th and 21st century German literature, culture, and intellectual history. Professor Balint, welcome. Great to have you with us. So this election sets the course not only our pleasure, not only for Germany, but also influences the direction of the European Union. What could a post-Merkel era look like in Brussels?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it's a little bit early to speculate on that because we don't know who the chancellor is going to be, right? So we have most likely outcome will be that we either have a social democrat who is Olaf Scholz, or we may have Armin Laschet, who is of the Christian Democrat in the tradition of Angela Merkel. So both are committed to maintaining a strong European Union that is without a question in Germany. Now, the agenda may look slightly different for each one of them. If Armin Laschet would be chancellor, that would probably mean for the EU pretty much a similar course as Angela Merkel, which was driven by stability. And if you listen to sort of like the international news on this, France already sort of expressed preference for a relatively speedy formation of the German government, is precisely because of the maintenance of that stability in Europe. Now, Olaf Scholz, it's a little harder to predict what will be driving the agenda there. It depends also on the coalition formation with the Green Party, whether the Green Party, for instance, is really able to push through some of its way more progressive agenda about climate policy, etc., and whether that would be also would actually have any kind of impact on the EU, that actually whose climate policy is way more conservative than what the German Green Party, for instance, would like to see.
And Chancellor Merkel cemented her position as one of the world's most successful political leaders. How likely is it that Germany will still be able to lead on the world stage without her? She's such a towering figure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a difficult question. You know, it's 16 years of Merkel. The question is a little bit who can fill those footsteps immediately? And well, I think the answer is immediately that will not be possible. That is pretty clear. But when you think back, 16 years ago, Merkel didn't establish herself over one day either, right? So we'll have to see how this plays out a little bit. Yeah, I think if Germany will have a social democrat as a chancellor in Olaf Scholz, then it's probably going to be a little bit of a fresh breeze, a change after 16 years, which I think that's sort of what the German voters voted for. The results are, it may be a narrow win, but historically, when we look at it in comparison to 2017, then that longer story tells us the more clear story, what the voters actually want. So I think, and we'll just have to see how that plays out on the world stage. These are processes that take a little longer than
right.
We'll have to see.
And speaking of the world stage, what does the outcome of this election mean for the U.S.-German relationship?
Well, I think here we have to go back to the U.S. elections because I think across the political spectrum, I think there is a kind of excitement about the possibility of a different kind of European or U.S.-German relations in the post-Trump era. So I think whether whoever will be the next chancellor of Germany, I think there is general excitement about sort of the possibility of a very different U.S.-German relations with lots more collaborative effort and a different kind of political rhetoric. I think that's sort of like probably I would highlight that as a main difference.